Greetings everybody, Maximus here. Well, it's time to get caught up on all those tidbits in the world of aviation you may have missed this week. So with that, hit the like button and let's get to the news. Well, apparently China's homegrown COMAC aircraft isn't working out quite as planned, because on the heels of a major aircraft deal announced by China Development Bank Financial Leasing 2 weeks ago, that it was purchasing 80 Airbus A320neo planes. Last week, the Chinese leasing firm also announced that it is ordering 50 Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes, which is a significant boost to Boeing as it struggles with 2 union strikes, layoffs, work slowdowns, and part shortages. But in recent years, it wasn't lost on Boeing and Airbus that China's new government COMAC jet was pretty much made with equally stolen technology from Boeing and Airbus, which led both Boeing and Airbus to increase their footprint in China. Back in 2018, Boeing opened the 737 finishing plant, and in 2023, Airbus doubled its assembly capacity, strengthening access to the world's second-largest aviation market. In other Boeing news last week, Boeing agreed to pay Brazilian aircraft maker Embraer $150 million over its decision to walk away from its nearly completed merger deal back in 2020. The deal marks the completion of a lengthy arbitration process that began after Boeing aborted a $4.2 billion agreement to buy Embraer's commercial jet-making operations in the middle of the pandemic. When the deal collapsed, Boeing accused Embraer of failing to meet conditions for closing the transaction. But Embraer said Boeing had torpedoed it because of wider financial problems triggering the arbitration process. Also continuing with Boeing news, the plane maker announced furloughs begin on Friday, September 20, for thousands of employees in Washington State and Oregon, after more than 32,000 aircraft workers went on strike, halting production. Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg told employees on Friday in a message that while the company is disappointed the discussions did not lead to more progress, Boeing remains very committed to reaching an agreement as soon as possible. Ending the strike is the top priority, Ortberg said. Ortberg also told the employees this week the company would initiate temporary furloughs for a large number of U.S.-based employees who are not part of the strike. Well, on 2 September 2024, a Cathay Pacific Airbus A350-1000's number 2 engine experienced a fire. On September 19, Hong Kong's AAIA, the Air Accident Investigation Authority, said that on inspection of the engine, a steel-braided sheath of the fuel hose connecting the number 17 fuel spray nozzle had a rupture, evidenced by a discernible hole in the hose. The AAIA also declared that black soot was found in the rear of the damaged engine, and burn marks were also noted on the underside of the 2 thrust reverse cowls. 5 additional secondary fuel manifold hoses were also found to have either frayed metal braids or collapsed structures inside the hose. Further inspection suggested that fuel directed to the fuel spray nozzle could leak through the ruptured secondary fuel manifold hose. The AAIA added that coupled with other contributing factors, such as the presence of oxygen in an ignition source, this could result in a fire that could spread to the surrounding area. The preliminary report concluded that if the issue were not addressed, it could escalate into a more serious engine fire, potentially causing serious damage to the aircraft. Cathay Pacific initiated a fleet-wide inspection of all 30 Airbus A350-900s and 18 A350-1000s after the airline identified an engine component failure on an aircraft destined for Zurich. Also on 19 September 2024, EASA issued an updated airworthiness directive to that requiring the entire A350-1000 fleet be checked following the Cathay Pacific fire. Explaining the updated AD, EASA said that a specific cleaning process available during the refurbishment may lead to fuel manifold main fuel hose degradation. Prompted by the finding, the compromised cleaning process was discontinued, and the process of inspecting some A350-900 engines commenced. And in much anticipated Airbus news, a spokesperson for Spain's Iberia Airline said the airline is scheduled to take delivery of the first A321 XLR during the second half of October this year. The XLR is the largest and longest range jet in the Airbus A320 family. The delivery from Hamburg represents a milestone in a fierce competition between Airbus and Boeing to meet the demand to serve longer routes with workhorse narrow-body jets. The A321 XLR was launched in 2019 with an initial target for entry to service date of 2023 to help airlines open new routes without the need to fill up larger wide-body aircraft. Boeing's larger version of its 737 family, the MAX 10, has yet to enter service. The debut of the A321 XLR delivery was originally earmarked for Iberia's sister airline, Aer Lingus, but was switched to the Spanish network by parent group IAG this year, amid uncertainty during a recent Aer Lingus pilot strike. Airbus says it has sold more than 500 of the recently certified A321 XLR model, but did not give a breakdown by airline. Well, on 15 September, Delta Airlines flight DL-1203 was en route to Portland International Airport from Salt Lake City when pilots noticed that the 5-year-old Boeing 737-900ER had a pressurization issue when it flew past 10,000 feet. But as soon as that flight landed, passengers immediately told the media that they knew something was wrong on the flight. Salt Lake City News KSL-TV was told by one passenger that when she looked over at her husband, he had both of his hands over his ears and was leaning forward. And when she looked at the other side of the aisle, she saw another passenger with a very bloody nose being assisted by other people. Another passenger told CNN that the sensation felt like being stabbed in the ear. The passenger said that her ear sounded like it was bubbling and started bleeding. The flight immediately returned to Salt Lake City International Airport, where paramedics met and treated injured passengers. Delta Airlines said in a statement that its technicians had identified and successfully fixed the issue with the aircraft's pressurization system. They said, "We sincerely apologize to our customers for their experience on Flight 1203. The flight crew followed procedures to return to SLC, where our teams on the ground supported our customers with their immediate needs." The airline said it had offered to cover transportation for customers needing to go to a medical facility. The plane was taken out of service on the morning of September 15, 2024, and went back into service on September 16. This next story sounds like one of those frivolous lawsuits, but it ended up being a pretty serious incident. In December last year, a flight to Seattle on Delta Airlines for a woman from Washington quickly turned traumatic. According to Mark Lundquist, the passenger's attorney, he said while on the flight, she was watching a movie when a flight attendant put a cup of burning hot coffee on her food tray, and it ended up in her lap. In a lawsuit filed by Lundquist's law firm, the woman, identified only as Cheryl, claims the coffee was boiling hot, and the pictures in the court document show some of the severe burns on the woman's upper legs and torso. So severe I can't show them to you. The coffee was excessively hot, way beyond industry standards, her lawyer said. Even the ER doctor was shocked that the coffee was as hot as it was on an airplane. The woman who works as a flight attendant for another airline says she was given a pain reliever, ice, and a bandage that became embedded in her wound. Ouch. The lawsuit claims protocols for a medical emergency were not followed and that the lack of proper care worsened the injuries. Her attorney said first you would expect they would have called out for a doctor or nurse or somebody that could give her medical advice. In fact, Cheryl asked for that. Secondarily, he added, airlines also have a service where they can call ahead to the ground to get remote medical advice from a doctor. Delta Airlines declined to comment when asked about the claims. Cheryl wants accountability here. She also wants to make sure this doesn't happen to any other airline passengers. And as someone who flies, I want that too, her attorney said. Well, I guess as a flight attendant, she should know how hot airplane coffee should be. But no word on who spilled the coffee exactly. Stay tuned. So, have you heard of Halo Space? Yeah, me either. But they are a Spanish startup that plans to fly space tours to the edge of space using a high-altitude balloon. And they announced that they will be establishing their final assembly and testing facilities in Saudi Arabia. This announcement is the latest in a series of projects announced in Saudi Arabia over the last couple of years, as the Saudi kingdom strives to attract startups from all over the world, hoping to become a major global aerospace hub. Halo Space has developed a capsule that will be able to lift space tourists to altitudes close to space with minimal energy expenditure. The capsule, which is named Aurora, has already been tested in India and California, and in late September 2024 will undergo full-scale unmanned flight tests in Saudi Arabia. During these tests, the Aurora capsule is expected to reach altitudes of 30 kilometers or about 19 miles. Once this technology is approved for use with passengers, Halo Space plans to offer 7-day programs, which, in addition to the actual flight, will also include a range of activities on the ground in the desert in Saudi Arabia. In anticipation of that moment, Halo Space plans to build a dome next to its spaceport and industrial testing facilities in Saudi Arabia. This center is said to provide an immersive experience, showing what a suborbital balloon flight might feel like. And finally, the U.S. Air Force has released new video footage of its first pre-production B-21 Raider stealth bomber undergoing flight testing. The Air Force also just recently confirmed plans to field Raider squadrons at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and Dyess Air Force Base in Texas, in addition to Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota, which is set to be the home of the first operational cute little autonomous B-21s. The Air Force currently plans to buy at least 100 B-21s, but there have already been discussions about a larger total fleet size of the mini Batwing killer robot stealth bombers. The U.S. Air Force says that the bombers will be flying real missions before the end of the decade. Cool. And with that, you're all caught up with a review of some of the more intriguing aviation stories of the past week or so. And of course, you know I want to hear your thoughts on all of today's stories. But I won't know until you let me know down below. And as always, until next time, this is Maximus.